Red Queen that sleeps under crown of stone, that she might linger longer, her eyes as white as wool.
Who goes there?
A prayer for the summoned by warrior song. A child born from darkness must take scent of his path.
Who's there? Are you referring to me? No! No! I still have so much to accomplish!
Being a vampire seems fun. Well, at least on paper. Not only do you become immortal, but also gain supernatural abilities. But then you remember that you would not be able to enjoy sunshine ever again. Now you would be able to binge on some garlic bread. Imagine the horror. Vampyr offers a similar experience. At first, using all your supernatural vampire powers to slaughter your way through enemies provides thirst-quenching satisfaction. But then you come across its many flaws. That's not to say Vampyr isn't full of fresh ideas. It's an incredibly ambitious title by Life is Strange developer Don't Nod, but unfortunately that's not quite enough to hide its foul stench of mediocrity. Game is set in 1918's London during the Spanish flu pandemic. Vampyr has a very gothic vibe to it. Whether you're exploring the foggy streets, the damp sewers, or the poorly lit corridors of Pembroke Hospital, everything looks murky and melancholic. The background soundtrack also does an excellent job of giving a sinister character to all of these locations. Cello in particular would give you waves of goosebumps. However, predictable enemy patrols and a lack of difficulty prevents any form of tension from materializing. Plus, the fear of venturing into the unknown soon fades, as you spend a good chunk of time retracing your steps in a compact open world. There has been a void of decent memorable vampire stories, while not counting Twilight as it turned those blood-sucking creatures into a laughingstock. Vampyr attempts to stay claim as a turning point for the undead genre, but infuriatingly falls short. You play as Jonathan Reed, a renowned doctor having expertise in blood transfusion, who has been recently turned vampire after returning from the Great War. As well as doing his best to find the source of vampiric disease spread across London, he spends the majority of the story searching for his maker, the vampire who infected him. While this venture initially exposes you to delightfully gritty politics and grounded yet engaging tales from the sporting cause, the story takes several absurd twists that cripple all of the promising momentum. The interactive segments of the story do at least provide a few memorable moments, as you are forced into tough dilemmas where you must choose between trusting your moral compass or your instincts. Even outside the main story, morality is never black or white. You might think that thuggy dude who bullies shopkeepers for money deserves to be drained of his blood, but then you find out he's only doing it to feed his child. Find out too late, and you'll be burdened with a potent dose of guilt. There are weighty in-game consequences to your decisions too, with the potential of turning any of the thriving communities into a hunting ground for blood-hungry beasts. It's just not dialogue options that threaten dire consequences. Vampyr gives you capability to feed on almost any civilian, given that your mesmerize ability is a high enough level. Draining a civilian of their blood results in a tasty portion of experience points, which can be spent unlocking or upgrading your vampiric powers via skill trees. However, it can also lead to an increase of disease and the deterioration of the district they reside. As a doctor, it's possible to manage the spread of disease by crafting and giving civilians medicine. This is important whether you have compassion or not for each of the characters, as the healthy blood donor means a greater feast of execution. But while this is a fantastically inventive idea, it's not executed very well. Despite playing the majority of the game without feigning on anyone, I still had plenty of experience point to treat myself to various upgrades and really encountered problems with the difficulty. Had unlocking the strongest vampiric moves only been possible to attain via gorging on blood, then temptation to go on killing spree would have been much more difficult to resist. But as it is, sticking to righteous path seems a no-brainer. Unsurprisingly, the best thing about being a vampire is using its supernatural powers in combat. Instead of dodging like us normal folk, Reed can teleport a short distance. Using this power to dash behind the enemy and slice through their back with a hacksaw never gets old. The boss battles are usually the most enthralling fights, particularly since they always take place in open spaces. Still, during these lengthy brawls, it becomes even more obvious just how shallow the combat mechanics are, with all your main melee attacks snapped to only one button. There is already enough shortcomings in Vampyr to subdue its potential, but it is the seemingly endless list of technical hiccups that left the sourest taste. The fogged-in streets frequently lost their menacing vibe due to pop-in textures. While combat was repeatedly interrupted by dips in frame rate, a loading icon would also abruptly pause the game if I moved too quickly through the open world, which suggests that Vampyr has been constrained by financial limitations. Most of these issues aren't game-breaking, but there is still enough to turn mild irritation into frustration. Hopefully, post-release patches will cure Vampyr of these bugs in due time. Vampyr is a frustrating game, not just because of many technical bugs, disappointing story conclusion, or simplistic combat, but mainly because it failed to live up to its lofty potential. The core idea to make players choose between extra experience points and horrifying narrative consequences is a great one. It just isn't implemented very well. In fact, that's probably the best way to summarize Vampyr as a whole. It takes a good game, but lacks that all-important bite.
Thanks guys for watching my video. If you liked it, please drop a like, and for my future content, please subscribe. Until next time, this is Casual Brown Gamer. Peace out.